Hi everybody, Index Card a Day 2017 with me, Creative Katie. This is card 17 and I'm going off prompt here. I think the prompt was Sprout, but I just wanted to play with my new Distress Crayons and do some more techniques with that. Hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. Thank you so much if you are. So I'm starting out with a gessoed page, and in order for the technique that I use to work, you're going to need it to be gessoed. So I've grabbed kind of the warm colors of my Distress Crayons, and I think that was Barn Door, and then I have Aged Mahogany, and can't remember what the yellow one is called, but the links will be in the description box below. There's that Aged Mahogany, that deep, dark burgundy color. I just love it. So I'm just applying this and blending it into the gesso to get a good coat. I'm a little bit of blending in between colors, but I know I'm going to come back and build more color, and so that's going to come over time. Now the thing with Distress Crayons, if you went and applied color through this whole thing, parts of it might dry, so you need to apply to a little section at a time and blend it as you go. If it does dry, you can just put a little bit more color on top of it or wet it to get it to start moving and blending. But I want some vivid colors here, so I didn't want to water this down too terribly much. And this is kind of the ugly stage. It doesn't really look like much. I'm having some issues with my table. Obviously is not level as the crayons, these things keep rolling towards me. So I am going to remove some of the Distress Crayon through a stencil. So this is a stencil I purchased at Michael's. It is in the home decor section, not in the craft section. And it came with another part section that you're going to see. They're really good stencils. Check that out. I'll put the link or the name of it in the description box if I remember. So I just have a wet baby wipe, and I've removed some of the moisture on it, as Tim Holtz recommends, and I'm just pulling off the paint. This is your adding texture and pattern by removing. Addition by subtraction. And I'll put a link to the video where I use this technique using a whole assortment of different color mediums, including Distress Crayons. So right now you can see it suddenly looks like something. Here's the matching pattern or stencil that goes with the other one. And I just want to add a little bit more interest. And so I want to be taking off, or actually applying some color now through the stencil on top of it to build all the color and technique. Liking the look of that, but not sure how that's going to work when I actually stencil it. So I'm putting the Distress Crayon on the mat, and then I'm just rubbing through the stencil, applying the color through the stencil. And I just want to put it a little bit here and there. I'm not going for a vivid impression here. I just want just a little bit of extra color, a little bit of extra visual texture and pattern. You can see it just kind of just pops it up. So I'm trying to aim where the white is, where I've pulled off some of the paint or the Distress Crayon, or lighter colors. Not everything that you add needs to be bold and very, forward. Sometimes you want something that's a little bit more subtle. So I'm just going to put some of the yellow on. And of course, you have to be aware that if you put it through, and it's Distress Crayon underneath, so you can reactivate that. When I added the water, that's kind of what happened a little bit, so I wouldn't do that. It may have been a good idea to use a stamp and stamp on the gesso surface before I even started applying the Distress Crayon. And some of that would definitely peek through and add yet one more layer. And when you choose to use more than one stencil on a page, if you choose stencils that have something in common, like these have that oval pattern, they were actually designed to work together. But if if it's circular, if you stick to circles or round shapes, it's going to work. If you stick to spirals, they will work together, as opposed to maybe using two stencils that are they contrast. So loving the deep, rich colors of the background that I have there, I flipped through my stash and I found this heart shape. And this was, I think it was a template that I had from my folk art days. And I just cut a bigger one and a smaller one. And I'm painting the bigger one with the pomegranate seed of the Dilutions paint, because it's that rich burgundy color. And I wanted it to be the boldest part of this card, which is why I didn't just use the aged mahogany Distress Crayon. But if you don't have both, you can, use what you have. You can also take red and add a little bit of black and work it up to kind of that cherry red burgundy color. I edged it with the Dilutions pomegranate seed, and it wasn't dark enough, so now I'm going in with some black. So the little heart for the center I'm going to paint it gold. And I gotta have my bling in there, you know it. And it reads like the yellow that's in the background. I'm going to edge this in black because I really want it to stand out. And I obviously need to adjust my camera. I apologize. I think it must have got moved when I did a desk cleanup, and I just seem to be bordering on being fully on screen. So this ICAD took about 25 minutes. So it's using the Distress Crayons really makes it quick and easy. You minimize the dry time and as well as cleanup. Coming in with some black splatters. And be careful if you are removing anything, because the Distress Crayon, if you go to move it with wet, you will lose some of it. So I'm doing the stamp, and I just use the black acrylic paint on my stamp. I prefer using the black acrylic paint to get a darker stamp in my projects rather than ink. I just have more success with it. The only thing you need to worry about is you need to clean it with a baby wipe as soon as possible, and then go in with a nail brush and scrub. I grabbed my Secura Jelly Roll pen, and I'm just doing some faux stitching around the heart. And then my Micron pen in black around the gold heart. And then I was able to use my micron pen and put a border around this ICAD, even though it is on Distress Crayon. And I love that. That was one of my all-time pet peeves with the gelatos, that you couldn't do this unless you put some kind of glaze on it. Well, I don't plan on buying more stuff to be able to do what I want to do. So this made me really happy to be able to do this. The Distress Crayons, if you haven't used it, they also dry, when it's dry, it feels dry. It doesn't have that waxy feel that I find with the gelatos. Some close-ups of the finished project. The stamp that I used was a Fisker's sentiment stamp. There were like 20 stamps in this collection, and they are wonderful stamps. They're big enough and bold enough, and I really like the mixture of fonts they use. Thanks for watching. We'll see you for the next index card.